There are moments in life when the world seems to tighten its grip around your throat, moments when the room feels smaller, the air heavier, and your thoughts louder than the people standing in front of you. Most people believe calmness is a gift reserved for the naturally composed, the effortlessly confident, or the spiritually enlightened. But Machiavelli knew better. He understood that calmness was not a gift. It was an instrument of power, one that could decide the outcome of wars, determine the fate of negotiations, and reshape the trajectory of a man's life with nothing more than silence and steady breath. He once wrote that fortune favors the man who can remain unmoved, while others drown in their own reactions. And if you have ever witnessed how quickly panic spreads, like a spark leaping through dry grass, you will understand why calmness is not merely a virtue, it is a strategy. It is the invisible armor worn by those who walk into storms and exit them untouched. But that kind of calm is never accidental. It is forged, carved, and commanded. And it begins the moment you realize that the battle is never between you and the world, it is between you and the version of yourself that wants to overreact. Machiavelli spent his life observing human nature from behind the curtain of politics. He saw kings who ruled empires crumble because they confused noise for power. He saw men who struck impulsively and lost everything because they mistook urgency for importance. And he watched how the calmest individuals, those who spoke last, moved last, decided last, often left the deepest mark on history. Not because they were cold, but because they were deliberate, because they were able to see beyond the moment, beyond their own heartbeat, into the wider landscape of consequence. Calmness, to him, was never passive. It was active restraint. It was choosing not to swing the sword until the target was fully exposed. It was the strength to stand still while others trembled. This is the first principle of maintaining calm in every situation, to recognize that the world rewards measured men, not frantic ones. If you can pause in the very moment your emotions demand an immediate answer, you have already won half the battle. The pause is where clarity lives. The pause is where power hides, and the pause is the one thing your opponents never expect. But this kind of pause, the Machiavellian pause, does not emerge out of thin air. It grows from something deeper, the ability to separate what is happening from what you feel about it. Most people never make that distinction. They assume their internal chaos is part of the situation itself. They assume an insult is a wound, a conflict is a threat, a setback is a verdict. Yet everything Machiavelli wrote reminds us that perception is the real battleground. The blow you do not take personally cannot injure you. The words you do not absorb cannot disturb you. And the chaos you refuse to internalize cannot shake your foundation. This is why calmness feels so rare, because it demands that you observe your emotions without surrendering to them, to watch your anger rise without riding it, to watch your fear awaken without feeding it, to watch your pride flare without letting it choose your next step. Machiavelli understood that humans were creatures of instinct, pretending to be creatures of logic, but those who mastered their instincts became something else entirely, men who walked through the world like unmoving mountains, impossible to manipulate. And in a world that thrives on reaction, being unreactive is a form of silent dominance. There is a moment in every confrontation, every argument, every crisis, when the real battle begins. It is not when the first words are spoken, nor when the tension peaks. It begins the moment you feel yourself losing control. Most people never notice it. It is tiny, nearly invisible, like the tremor before an earthquake. But if you train yourself to catch that moment, to sense the shift inside you, you can prevent what comes next. You can stop the emotional avalanche before it gathers speed. You can stop the shaking hands, the raised voice, the racing mind, because calmness is always lost internally before it is lost externally. And if you guard your inner threshold, the outside world cannot breach it. Machiavelli believed that a man who controls his presence controls the room, and presence is never louder than in moments of calm. Think of the leaders who captivated you, the individuals who seemed untouchable in difficult conversations, the people who could de-escalate a storm with a single glance. They were not calm because life was kind to them. They were calm because they had disciplined themselves to appear unbothered, even when their minds were on fire. They understood that reactions expose you, while restraint conceals your advantage. Years ago, Machiavelli witnessed a negotiation between two rival families in Florence. One side arrived furious, loud, desperate to assert dominance. The other arrived composed, speaking softly, moving slowly, their expressions unreadable. By the end of the meeting, the loud men were exhausted, their emotions spent, their arguments diluted by their own intensity. The calm men, however, barely spoke, and yet they walked away with the terms they wanted. Not because they were stronger, but because they forced their rivals into emotional exhaustion. Calmness had done what force could not. It shifted power without lifting a hand. That moment shaped Machiavelli's understanding of human nature more profoundly than any political theory. It showed him that control is never about overpowering others. it is about outlasting them. If you can remain calm long enough, people eventually reveal everything: what they fear, what they want, where they are weak. Calmness opens a window into the soul of others, while simultaneously closing the doors into your own. And when used correctly, this quiet form of psychological leverage becomes a shield and a weapon at the same time. But there is another truth Machiavelli understood, one far less glamorous. Calmness is not natural to the human mind. It must be conditioned, trained, cultivated like a soldier preparing for battle. And training begins in moments far smaller than the crises we worry about. It begins when someone interrupts you rudely and you choose not to bite back. It begins when plans fall apart and you resist the instinct to panic. It begins when someone misunderstands you, disrespects you, or disappoints you and you stay steady instead of erupting. Every small moment of restraint strengthens the root from which great calmness grows. And perhaps the most powerful truth hidden in Machiavelli's writings is this: calmness is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. The man who feels nothing is not strong. He is numb. The man who feels everything but remains unmoved, that is strength. That is control. That is power woven into silence. And it is this kind of power that separates those who drift through life at the mercy of circumstance from those who shape the world around them without a single outward tremor. Imagine walking into a room where tension hangs thick, where tempers flare, and decisions are demanded before reason has had a chance to breathe. The instinct is to react, to argue, to defend, to show emotion as proof that you are alive. But Machiavelli teaches that survival and true mastery lies in the opposite. It lies in stillness, in observing, in listening, in feeling the pulse of every person around you while keeping your own pulse quiet, measured, unshaken. Remaining calm is not an absence of thought. It is the refinement of it. It is the ability to see the forest when everyone else is blinded by a single tree. This is the second principle he would have you carry forward: perspective. In the heat of any situation, the smallest detail can appear enormous, and the loudest voice can seem unassailable. Yet, if you learn to pause, to breathe, to center yourself amidst the storm, you begin to perceive the real patterns hidden beneath the chaos. The arguments that seem urgent are often irrelevant. The threats that feel immediate are often hollow. Calmness grants you the rare vision of discernment, allowing you to act not out of fear or impulse, but from a position of informed strategy. There is also a third principle embedded in this art of calm: the mastery of perception. Humans are drawn to emotion like moths to a flame, but the wise understand that appearing unshakable exerts influence far beyond words. When a man remains composed while others crumble, he does not merely withstand pressure, he commands it. People will listen, follow, and sometimes even fear less what you say than the silent authority you project. In moments of crisis, the loudest often falter, while the quietest determine the outcome. Machiavelli recognized that perception often outweighs reality. The world does not honor your inner turmoil. It honors the image of control, and those who wield that image master the currents of fortune without exposing the turbulence inside. The fourth principle is patience, not the kind taught in books or preached in empty platitudes, but the active, disciplined patience of calculation. Calmness is useless if it is rushed. Power, influence, negotiation, even survival, requires that you wait, that you measure, that you let others exhaust themselves before revealing your own hand. Machiavelli would watch men strike too soon, losing fortunes, alliances, and reputations, all because they could not endure the silent tension of anticipation. He understood that the man who masters patience can allow chaos to unravel itself, can allow truth to reveal itself, and can allow opportunity to present itself in perfect alignment with intention. The storm is not your enemy, it is your instrument. And the one who plays it without panic, without haste, and without noise, orchestrates outcomes beyond the comprehension of those who act impulsively. Finally, the fifth principle: self-command. This is the root from which all calmness springs. External calm is meaningless without internal mastery. The man who cannot govern his own thoughts, his own impulses, his own heartbeat, will never command presence in the world. Every temptation to react, every urge to lash out, every flicker of doubt or fear must be observed and measured. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means channeling it. Anger becomes focus. Anxiety becomes awareness. Fear becomes strategy. By controlling the self, you control the moment, and by controlling the moment, you begin to control the narrative, the room, the situation, even the people around you. Machiavelli believed that true leaders were those who had conquered themselves first. Without self-command, calmness is merely a mask. With it, calmness becomes an unassailable fortress. To live by these principles is to embrace a way of being that feels almost paradoxical. You remain human, you feel deeply, yet you are unshaken. You observe, yet you act decisively. You are aware of danger, yet you are unmoved by panic. You navigate storms not by avoiding them, but by walking through them as if the wind itself obeyed your step. And in doing so, you find that calmness is not merely a survival skill, it is a life strategy, a form of power that touches every aspect of existence. The quiet mind becomes a weapon, the measured response becomes influence, and the disciplined presence becomes respect that words alone could never command. So, when the world presses in, when chaos threatens to consume, when every instinct inside you screams for reaction, remember this: the storm is temporary, but the power of calm is permanent. It is a skill you cultivate over years, through small, deliberate choices, through each moment you refuse to be swept away by emotion. And as you practice, you will notice a change, not just in how the world responds to you, but in how you respond to the world. You will move through life not as a leaf blown by the wind, but as the tree that bends without breaking, whose roots are deep enough to withstand any gale. You will act with precision, speak with intention, and navigate every challenge with the unshakable confidence that comes from mastery over yourself. Machiavelli's greatest lesson is not found in his battles, his writings, or the courts he observed. It is found in this singular truth: calmness is power, deliberate and silent. It is the force that governs influence, the shield that protects wisdom, and the instrument that shapes destiny. To remain calm in any situation is to step out of the chaos that controls ordinary men, to rise above the noise that deceives them, and to act from a place of unassailable strength. This is not a path for the faint-hearted, nor a skill for those who crave immediate gratification. It is the discipline of the courageous, the study of the patient, and the art of those who understand that the most profound victories are won not with fury, but with measured composure. Carry these principles into your life. Observe before reacting, measure before speaking, wait before acting, govern yourself before governing others. Let your calmness be your signature, your presence be your authority, and your restraint be your strength. In a world desperate for reaction, be the stillness that commands it. Be the mind that masters it. Be the power that walks through storms as if they were nothing more than passing wind. And when you leave this world, may you leave it remembered not for the loudness of your anger, nor the force of your impulse, but for the quiet mastery with which you moved, decided, and conquered every situation. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I remain calm, always in control, unshaken in the storm. Thank you for watching. Remember, in the silence of your mind lies the loudest power. Use it wisely, use it deliberately, and let it guide every step you take.